Big round of applause, everybody, for Susan. Yeah, good old Susan. She's left me a review for my book on Amazon, and I thought I would share it with you so you will know why I am giving her a big round of applause.
Is this okay?
My new best friend Susan left this review on Amazon. I was hoping for more.
Please, sir, I want some more.
I don't have a huge preparedness library, but I thought this might be a useful addition. If you're just starting out with preparedness, this book might be useful. I've been doing this for a rather long time and didn't learn anything new. Don't let that stop you, though. Everybody starts out somewhere.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand.
What I thought I would do, because Susan, she didn't learn anything new from my book, which is impressive, is go through a few of the things from my book that she already knows, because she didn't learn anything new, and that way we can all together, collectively, give her a big round of applause. So here's the beginning of the list of things that Susan already knows. First off, unlike any other survival book that I've seen, I have 5 chapters dedicated to mindset development. Things like STOPA, Law of Threes, and why those are important, and how to critically think your way through those situations. How to understand mindset skills, tactics, and gear. She understands the Rule of 3 exceptionally well. She didn't need any help with that. She understands what requisite action plans are. She understands survival physiology and why it's important to your needs. Susan already knows all that.
Wow.
Now that was all Chapter 1. Chapter 2, what Susan already knows is methods to increase your awareness of your surroundings, how to develop the ability to have extended situational awareness and everything, how to memorize things that you see so that you can utilize them for later. She has all of this already under wraps. She's got it all. Avoidance and awareness, which I've been teaching for 25 years in self-defense. She's got all that because, she's Susan. In Chapter 4, I discussed developing your mental fortitude. Susan's got all this. Although all the information from this chapter, for the most part, came from me interviewing Special Forces and Special Operations personnel and asking them, how do you have and how do you develop mental fortitude for military life? Because in my mind, that is one of the best ways to learn how to deal with things under stress. And although I talk to people that have, 20 years in Special Forces, Susan already knows all that. Now in Chapter 5, I go into mindfulness, which I've never heard anybody really talk about as it relates to survival. But Susan knew all this already. She had it all. I interviewed Orthodox priest, Zen Buddhist priest. I've talked to a number of people of how do you develop the ability to be more mindful so that you can at least change your perspective of what it is that you're realizing and seeing in front of you. So if you're in a bad situation, you can change your perspective and be more mindful and gain positive attitude from it.
Stay alive no matter what occurs.
But after talking with people with literally hundreds of years of experience and researching all this stuff, Susan already knew. In Chapter 6, where I discuss taking responsibility for your personal safety, I go into things like wilderness and remote first aid. I contacted the Wilderness Medical Society and said, what's the top 5 things that happen to people in the outdoors, in the backcountry? And then I showed people how to go with that. But, I should have called Susan. She already knows it all.
Excuse me, are you going to be much longer? I have to make a very important call.
And as far as land navigation, I talk about the 3 norths: true north, magnetic north, grid north. Susan already knows all that stuff. Declination. She already knows what her declination is, where she lives. She understands the difference between Military Grid Reference System, Universal Transverse Mercator, United States National Grid System, and Latin Long. She knows all that because, like I said before, she's Susan. She didn't learn anything from this book. Now, I talk about self-defense after 26, 27 years of experience. And I took that, over 2 decades of experience and dwindled it down into some usable ways that your average person can take their self-defense in their own hands and do it. Some ways that you can defend yourself with your hands, your elbows, your knees, your feet, how to throw people down, how to make it easier for a small person to throw a big person down. But all that 20 plus years of experience, Susan already knew all that. She didn't learn anything new. And of course, Susan's already familiar with radiation, evaporation, convection, and conduction, and how they relate to your survival in a wilderness situation, because she didn't learn a thing. She knew all this. There's no reason for Susan to have read this on how to make fire in the rain after 50 years of experience of me learning how to do exactly that, because, well, Susan didn't learn a thing from my book. You know, there should be strategies for keeping a fire going all night long. And I can't remember the last time I did this. Oh yeah, it was last weekend. I was up all night helping keep a fire going in an advanced survival course. I mean, I've got recent experience and I shared that kind of stuff in this book, but too bad Susan didn't learn anything. You know, Susan probably is a plant expert since she didn't learn anything, because I have a listing here of the toxic species to avoid at all costs, but she already knew all that. Thank goodness. Woo! Whew, man. You know, when I wrote the chapter on survival food, one of the things I wanted to understand is how to obtain energy. And so I interviewed a couple of nutritionists. One of them is a PhD in nutrition. Another one was in exercise science, somebody that goes out and does things all the time and teaches people how to function in kinesiology. And I wrote this chapter based upon their research. You know, things like basic metabolic rate and bodily processing and functioning and how the body works and all that stuff. So you as an individual, no matter who you are, even if you're not like me in my body size, it doesn't matter what body size you have, you can determine your survival energy needs. But Susan already knew all that. I should have interviewed her.
Why'd you ask Susan?
George's Susan?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not Susan? I should be friends with Susan. Of course! Susan!
You know, I think the most impressive thing about Susan is this, and that is, despite the fact that I've only got, you know, a lifetime, which is 50 years of experience in the woods learning how to track, and I've trained with literally some of the best instructors in the world, and I condensed that down and taught people in one chapter, chapter 14, on tracking, on how to utilize tracking to enhance your situational awareness, how not to get lost, how to use it to find lost people. And I condensed all that information down in one chapter. And I guess that Susan has all that experience too, because she didn't learn anything in this chapter either. Man, I'm so impressed with her. And you know, I'm a professional gear reviewer, which means companies consult with me on their gear, on how to design it and how to utilize it for survival. They send me all types of gear to review and give them feedback on. And I've had the good fortune since 2006 to be watching hundreds, literally hundreds of people in class use stuff that works and doesn't work. And so in the section on gear, I relayed all that information and dwindled it down in a usable set of information on gear. You know, my experience, 50 years of experience in outdoor activities, my professional opinion as a professional gear reviewer, as well as literally watching all these people. But Susan, she's got this small library. She didn't learn anything from this section. Man, I'm so sorry I let her down.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, this is my copy of the book. If you notice, I've got that X in there that helps me remember. If you're like Susan, you won't probably learn anything from my book either. But after all these things that I mentioned here, if you think you might learn something from it, I'd love for you to pick up my book. It's available for like $14, $15 on Amazon. Check it out. Come on, join in. Let's give Susan a big round of applause.